Well, unfortunately, we have to go back to Morose Monday because you watched Raw this week, and because of that, we have to talk
Oh.
about Raw this week. But there were a few segments that went viral, one specifically reminiscent of the early days of AEW, and one just the continuation of this weird kidnapping swerve. Not Swerve Strickland, a classic swerve, I guess.
It's a swerve. Oh, my
WWE
God.
Raw this past week.
They swerve when they write. Yeah, they swerve when they write the show. Just another manic Monday. It was depressing. The people there were happy, but I was on my couch and I was like, oh boy, howdy. Raw on November 11th from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Just another garden spot of America hosting Monday Night Raw. And they're making money hand over fist. And I told you right before we went on the air, I said, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because except for the stuff to make fun of, it's not like this wasn't like an unprofessional show. It looks great. Everybody's a star. The fans, again, is like they get cue sheets. They see minimal excitement and they're chanting. And what are they putting in the goddamn soft drinks? Do they have some type of additive? Possibly of Ico Pro that's left over from the warehouse. They're shooting it in the goddamn caramel and the Coca-Cola mixes in these buildings because these people are just going out of their minds watching some people speak to each other. Am I overstating this? Am I being hyperbolic?
You're not, because if you haven't noticed, I've been somewhat dismissive the last several weeks of these Raw reviews because I don't like the show. It's not, I appreciate how successful they are, and I want to see the big things play out, but there's a whole lot of nothing I have to sit through on Raw, and even some of the talking segments ain't all that.
It's like, if when you were a kid in the territory days, the reason you liked wrestling and you wanted to be a wrestler, you wanted to just watch this because these are like superheroes. These are like, badasses. And this is wild shit. And now it's like, if you want to be an archaeologist, that's more of the temperament where you're taking one of those boxes with the screen on the bottom and you're taking an hour to sift through some cow shit from 700 AD to find out if there's a turd in the punch bowl or whatever. That's the patience that you've got to display. But real briefly, before we get to I don't know what to call it, the opening promo with Gunther and Damian Priest. It's Gunther walks out and says, I'm still the world heavyweight champion. And who's my next challenger? Damian Priest. And they play Priest. That's all he said. And they play Priest music. And he comes to the ring and says, if you got to say something about me, say it to my face. So for the next 10 minutes or so, that's what they did. They fucking talked to each other and attempted in a somewhat half-hearted fashion to provoke each other. But I mean, remember when, on a wrestling show, Brian, an argument could escalate from 0 to 60 in about 45 seconds?
It usually did. And then you'd want to see it play out as soon as you could, at the arenas.
But I understand they got a 2-hour show here, and it used to be 3, but holy mackerel. Anyway, finally it ended up with, hey, Gunther, you want to take a swing at me? Take it. And here came Ludwig Kaiser, and he was the most aggressive fucker in this thing because he was promoting Damian Priest for doubting the ring general. And you need to get out of the ring right now and save yourself. And he could have promo on him, and Gunther stopped him and started telling him off. And like, don't do this. And then Kaiser said, I'm not going to let this street trash talk to you like that. And Priest knocked Kaiser out. And then Gunther and Priest just had a fucking face off, and Gunther got out of the ring and gathered Kaiser up and they left. What kind of friend, if some guy and you some guy and you, is that proper grammar? If you and some
sounds like a website, sounds like a dating website.
Some guy and you, if you and another gentleman are having an argument not a violent one, but a disagreement on the street, and a friend of yours comes up and says, "I'm not going to let this fat fuck talk to you like that." And the guy decks your friend. Are you? Well, shit. And now they're illustrating somehow there's some tension between Gunther and Kaiser because Gunther is more honorable, or he doesn't want Kaiser to be a loudmouth, or I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, what's going to happen? Is Kaiser turning babyface? Is it going to be that they hope the fans eventually want him to get Gunther and just hit him one time?
Well,
because then you have a babyface named Kaiser Wilhelm or whatever his name is. Yeah,
well, they had a babyface in Texas named Fritz von Erich, so these things can work. But I mean, not if they continue to portray Kaiser after they were giving him some oomph, and now he gets knocked out with one shot, no rebuttal, and his friend doesn't even take up for him. But anyway, I noticed that, and then it came the match where Kofi Kingston was wrestling Butch, who don't want to be called Butch anymore. It's too late now. That's all we can think of. We see that moop face, Pete Dunne. What is... he could play a caveman in a movie with no makeup. He's got an odd featured fucking face, doesn't he?
I don't know what that means.
With the contours of his face, much less the shadow of his smile.
An odd featured face.
It doesn't match his body, which is short and squat, but his face is long. And there's potentially more room between his chin and his fucking top of his head than there ought to be to make it, proportion correct. I don't know. And
I don't know.
He's a fucking midget caveman with a little Dickensian impish twist, and I don't know what's going on with this fucking guy.
I mean, that's the other thing. I know that they make it that he hates Butch. Butch was the better character than the caveman character.
Well, we hated the name Butch, but he looked, I hated the way
he looked like some little kid you would see on the streets of London that's like selling newspapers or throwing rocks or doing something bad,
Or being flipped a crown to go buy the biggest Christmas goose in the window. God, this is a fairly smart fucking show, isn't it? For the wrestling genre, at least. So nevertheless, they're having this match. And nobody really cares about that. And Kofi's having the problems with Woods, who's getting an attitude and has been for a long time. Talk about a slow cooking fucking goose. But then finally they do something where Butch gets on top of Kofi, and in the manner of a ground and pound, he starts pounding the shit out of the mat next to Kofi's head in plain sight. The worst I've ever seen, worse than that. At least
Dark Order.
Well, yeah, but there was 12 guys in the ring. At that time, I'm not excusing doing it, but it was harder to see because there was so much more going on because there were 12 guys fighting all over the fucking place. But this was a single match. There wasn't anything else to shoot. Because I saw somebody on Twitter, so what's the cameraman's fault? What do you want Pete to do? Give Kofi a concussion? No, just learn to fucking work. Was this guy supposed to be this great worker from the British Isles or whatever the fuck?
How's it the cameraman's fault?
He should have. Some of these
should have shot the ceiling. Yeah, what the fuck?
Some of these marks, and I do not use that term with endearment, because the modern marks think that it's done with camera angles. And that, you got to expect at the live show, you're going to be able to see through it because they don't hide it with the camera angle. You fucking morons. We had live shows for 100 fucking years. Nobody did this shit. Point being, he was pounding the shit out of the mat, and what he was going for, and I don't know what was going through his mind when he was doing it, but what he was going for was he was trying to look like he was bringing his elbow down at the base of Kofi's neck. And it would look like, and I'm using the air finger quotation marks, it would look like that he was really hammering the elbow into the back of the guy's neck, and he's really stopping himself by punching the mat. But he did it like a dozen times, just boom, 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 boom. And the longer he did it, the worse it looked and the less care he was taking with it. So by the last couple, he was just punching the mat straight down. And we just had a talk, Brian, on whatever show we did last about guys throwing a punch, last couple of shows. Instead of punching a guy 6 times in the face while you're backing him up to the ropes to shoot him off and he can run so you can do a big move, and you're talking to him while you're punching him and he's listening to you instead of selling him, that's just caca. And the same thing applies here. If you want it, you can't. If you can do something like this and work it proper where it doesn't look see-through, then bless you. But instead of doing it a dozen times in a row, draw back, follow through, and land it, boom, and let the guy register, draw back, follow through, and land it, boom, let the guy register. Dick Murdoch was a master at that, where every part of him was involved in something. If he was going to punch you in the face, if he grabbed your hair with his left hand and bent your head back so your face was exposed, and meantime he's with his right hand drawing back behind him and making a fist so the people can see it, and he's cocking his right leg behind him so that when he leans back, you can tell he's really winding up for this thing. And when he would throw it, boom, with one snap, right a millimeter in front of your fucking head. And if you sold it, boom, and you would rock and you would go down. Instead of this phony looking bullshit that's just people are just scoffing at or overlooking because you're nobody anyway. So why do they don't care? But which is the better option? Make people remember one thing you did or for positive because it looks so good, or make people remember the dozen things you did that were so fucking phony. But that was the viral part of the program. And it certainly gave me a little bit of the rockin' pneumonia and the boogie woogie flu.
So he could do all the moves, you know. He can go in there and have a really good match with, who was it? Tyler Bate, I think, way back. We saw those matches. And he could do all the moves and keep up with all the modern guys. But when someone can't do something like that, is that bad training? Is that just not caring enough about something that should be an important part of a wrestler's repertoire, the punch?
Well, not even a punch, but just your work to not be so see-through. It's not bad training because I'm pretty sure in wrestling school, they never covered a spot. Okay, get the guy down on his fucking belly, face down, and just start hammering him like you're hammering him with elbows to the base of his fucking spine over and over. They probably never got to that when in wrestling school. This was something that he had come up with in his mind. He's trying to be creative. Not saying he should be cast off into the sun on a rocket ship. But goddamn, it was embarrassing if you care about the business. But in his mind, he was thinking, it will look like that I'm doing this if I do this. And it didn't remotely. But you ought to be able to see or tell if you have that much experience, if you've been in the ring that long, you ought to be able to cut something like that. I mean, when you're being given a big bump and it looks like shit, and somebody's flinging you, sometimes when you're upside down in the air or whatever like that, you can't really tell how it looks. But if you're delivering blows to someone, you should be able to tell how it fucking looks, is what I'm saying. And somebody needs to maybe mention to him, and I bet you they did, take that one out unless, workshop it in practice or whatever, but take it out off of television. And see, that's another thing.
Don't work for the cameras, work for the arena.
Well, yeah, we'll work for both. See, that's the thing. If you're working for the arena, the cameras will pick it up. And you have to, but at the same time that the cameras are closer than most of the people in the arena. And see, that's the thing on house shows. Yeah, don't split the hair right down to the infinitive and take a chance on giving a guy a black eye because it needs to look so good, right? On the house shows, these guys are used to working in big buildings in front of a lot of people now. and you can't tell at some distance away. But on television, you need to tighten it up. It's not about the camera angles. That's what the previous production staff under Bucky Beaver was. Remember, the camera would cut with every move when it
Yeah.
was supposedly landing.
Either that or it would zoom in and out.
Yes, because that was supposed to either make it look more frantic or you wouldn't be able to tell if they missed. And I know some guys, when they started doing that in the early days, that were insulted if they did it in their matches. Like, motherfucker, like, my shit don't look good. You got to cut the camera, let the people see what I'm fucking doing. There was some resentment in some quarters. But no, the cameramen are not going to cover shit that whiffs and misses with their camera angles, because this is a live action, one take theater and around production, and they can't. They plan their camera angles for the entrances and the looks over the shoulders and the guy comes up behind the other guy, that type of thing. But not every goddamn step of the fucking match. That would be impossible. So nevertheless, would you like to go now to where apparently you're right, Brian Last? You are correct, sir. You have called something that is unfolding in front of our eyes, and it's being denied. That's why we know it's going to happen. You know what I'm talking about?
Something to do with the panties?
No, we're not talking about that on the air.
Oh.
Bronson Reed and Seth Franklin Rollins being added to the War Games, number 5 and number 5. You called this before we saw this program the other day, didn't you? Or did you?
I said something, but I don't want to take credit for it.
Well, I don't know. I can't keep track of the times. All these days are but a blur, ticking away the moments that make up a dull day, frittering and wasting the hours in an offhand way. But at 9 o'clock...
Panties.
The witching hour. What do you... Bronson Reed came out to the ring and did a promo about Seth. And if you want your revenge, I'm here in the ring right now. I mean, my God, again, it's the same pattern. It's the same thing. And once an hour, somebody comes out to the ring, mentions somebody's name or calls them out. They instantly appear, and here we go. And the buildings are packed, and these people are making a fortune. They're printing money. Printing and minting. And here comes Seth, and he hits the ring, and they have a fight, and they're going to do the desk thing. But Seth dives on Reed before Reed can splash on Seth, and security comes out for a big pull apart, and Bronson Reed does a dive through the ropes that Seth dodges, and he takes out security like a bowling ball through bowling pins. And here comes Pierce, and we go to the break. And we come back from the break, and Rollins, I want Bronson Reed. And Adam Pearce is, fine, I'm sick of you people. Next week, you can have Bronson Reed. And he walks off. And then Sammy comes in. And he makes the pitch. He's a very reasonable fellow, is Sami Zayn. Very calm and level-headed, and tries to appeal to your better angels. And he tells Seth why that he should be the 5th guy on their War Games team because of the family bond between Seth and Roman. Nobody else can do this. You're our 5th guy. And Seth says, you're out of your fucking mind. I'm going to have nothing to do with Roman Reigns or building him back up. I don't want to discuss this any further. Good day to you, sir. So now you know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I know what's going to happen. And you know what? Let's talk about it, though. Under the idea that it's going to happen, and Reed and Rollins will be added to the 2 sides in War Games, and we'll talk about the rest of the show, or you will. Is it the right move? If you need 5 guys, and you kind of do it, there have been 4-on-4 War Games, but 5-on-5 is really War Games. Are these the right 2 guys to add to the match, considering the kind of feud they've had?
Well, yes, I think Seth works because of the Roman thing and the the checkered past they've had. And Reed looks vaguely Samoan because he's from Australia with, I assume, some island blood of that type over there. I don't know what all the fucking strains are.
You could stop, but I don't know.
It could be the Andromeda strain. But here's the thing, and yes, there is, because it's a hot angle now that they're in this thing where it's a hot angle. But I wouldn't have been bothered by 4-on-4 because this is the 4 people, right? It's like you're not even evening up a dinner party by inviting the girl for the odd guy or vice versa. You're making it an odd number. There's 4 members of the original faction and 4 current members of this faction, unless they were going to introduce a 5th member of the heel group to where the baby faces had to search for someone outside the current party. Then I think they could have gone 4-on-4 and just kept it more focused and done something with Seth and Reed more individually. I know they've done those, but they're going to do more.
And we've heard like time after time, it must be 2 or 3 times now, every few months, they've signed another member of the family. Like there was Heckel, the giant. There's another one of the Anawai family. I don't know who. There's another Fatu out there. And we keep hearing they're signing one after another, but we don't see them up here. So we'll see.
Well, but at the same time, you got to be careful.
Is this Heyman's return? It has to be Heyman's return, right? He escorts these guys to the cage?
No.
You don't think so?
This is not I don't think it's a big enough deal. No, and not a multiple person.
Or The Rock.
The Rock might pop up to, come out and pose or be involved, whatever. But with one at a time there, Cowboy. What I'm with Heyman, that's some type of major singles match involving Roman. I don't know whether it's Royal Rumble. It might even be WrestleMania. They don't need it right now. I mean, he's still there behind the scenes. It's not like he's been exiled, but they don't need him on television because they're still building wherever this is going. But I don't think he would show back up for a 10-man War Games, whatever the case may be. And I don't think he'll show back up until somebody does something fairly heinous to Roman Reigns to begin with. But that's just me. Speaking of heinous, go ahead.
I was going to say maybe he needs to get on the phone and call Roman Reigns with Mint Mobile.
Well, that's where Heyman's been, actually. He's on the road right now. He's undergone a press and publicity tour because the phone plan that he has hooked up to his famous phone is Mint Mobile. And that's how he's able to afford those suits, because he only pays $15 a month for his phone plan. And to be honest, I wish the phone plan that he'd have had 35 years ago when he hit me with that phone was a little lighter.
But it's not the phone plan, that's the actual phone.
Well, it wouldn't have hurt to lighten it up the plan a little bit too.
You don't know what his plan was?
Well, I know what his plan was, to get me the fuck out of WCW. But nevertheless, folks, if you've got a plan that you would like to execute, or a person you'd like to execute with a particular plan, whatever, you're not going to find a better plan. It's almost a plot over at Mint Mobile. They have carefully set in basements and dimly lit rooms with the curtains drawn late at night and concocted these revolutionary and radical ideas on how you don't have to pay a lot for your telephone service. And you not only get to talk on the phone. Lord knows the children don't do much of that anymore. You're going to get to text. So mommy and daddy can just hand you the phone and say, text all of our friends and stay put in the corner and you'll be happy, kids. You get to text. You get the high-speed data. You can watch all the various TikToks and flip-flops and monkey flips that are on the internet. And it's on the nation's largest 5G network. You know what that means, Brian? I found out what that means, the 5G network.
You just found out? What did you find out it means and from who?
I found out it's when you walk up to one of those big towers and you say, gee, that's a big tower. Their towers are so big, you say gee 5 times. You're like, gee, 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 gee.
You've been hanging out with
Gee,
Hotchkiss
that's a
again.
big tower.
You've been hanging out with Hotchkiss again, haven't you?
Well, he clued me in on it because he used to work for the phone company. Actually, he was one of the people that came and fucking stuck the poles in the ground. But anyway, so that's what it is. But these towers are big, folks. I'm telling you, they tower over everything. If they're not bolted to the ground properly, they can turn over and take out a swath a half a mile of downtown. But Mint Mobile's not responsible for that now. That would be an act of God, so you can't sue them. So if you want a plan with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and the nation's largest 5G network, as long as you don't try to sue them if a tower falls on your head, you can go right now to mintmobile.com/JCE, and you're going to get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. Formerly, they would have to come and string wires to your home. And then you'd have the wires running in through the kitchen window or maybe coming down the fireplace chimney.
This isn't the 1880s.
And hanging on the wall.
That's not,
but
no.
That's what I'm saying. This is a wireless network, so you don't have to worry about no one will come to your home. No salesman will call. And they don't have to come and plug you in or wire you up or anything. You go to mintmobile.com and /JCE, and they can fix you up right there. You don't even have to schedule somebody to come over and climb up on your roof. And I thought I'd never get that guy out of the chimney. He got stuck halfway down. And it was cold, too. I was ready to start a fire.
Again, let's. I don't know where you're going right now, you sicko. But let's get back to Mint Mobile.
After he'd been there for 3 or 4 days, he lost enough weight that we were able to pull him down with that rope that he had tied around his ankle. Anyway, once again, folks, to get the new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan, it was right around his ankle, right down there, and his foot almost came off. For just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/JCE. That's mintmobile.com/JCE. $45 for 3 months. I'm telling you, you can't beat it. It's like a sore Peter or a busted drum. You just can't beat it. $45 upfront payment required, which is equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 GB on the unlimited plan, but you'll never notice. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions may and possibly will apply. See Mint Mobile for all the details.
All right, Mint Mobile, friends of ours. They can be friends of yours. Of course, as always.
Well, if you are nice to them, they'll be nice to you. But I don't think we should make any assumptions that the people at Mint Mobile who are fine people are just going to have to automatically like any asshole.
Well, mintmobile.com/JCE.
Speaking of any asshole.
Hey, fuck you.
Well, I was talking about me.
Oh, hey, don't talk about yourself like that. That's not nice.
Well, fuck you.
Hey, that's not nice either.
So you know what else wasn't nice? The Miz.
Oh, boy.
So there's been the Karrion Kross and Company. Sounds like a goddamn jeweler at this point. They kidnapped Come to Kross and Company for her on Valentine's Day. They kidnapped Miz last week, and we're going to dismember him and do the Reservoir Dogs thing on him. They had just started playing Stuck in the Middle with You by Steelers Wheel.
They didn't kidnap him. The Wyatts did.
Or the Wyatts, right? No, the Wyatts kidnapped him. That's right.
That's right.
That's what I'm trying to say. Well, see, he's scared of the Wyatts. That's when Karrion Kross and Company saw Miz in the back. He's scared of the Wyatts because he's petrified because they kidnapped him. That's what I'm trying to say. And he's done with this whole thing, and he's asking for a leave of absence. He's going in. He said, I'm just, apparently he was mentally impaired by this, just traumatized. And he won't.
Makes 2 of us.
Yeah, all the viewers makes a couple million of us. And he wouldn't tell Cross what happened with the Wyatts and why they let him go. And he tells Cross, you just need to move on. So because of that, they have the two fat guys grab the Miz and they're going to take him out into the arena with the following handheld camera shot where they just drag him straight out through the entranceway and into the arena into the ring. And somehow, and Miz is begging, no, please, no, please, no. But somehow just grabbing him and roughly like giving him the bouncer walk out to the fucking bar door because he's had one too many. They busted his eye open. His fucking eye, by the time this thing's over with, his eyes juiced down his eyelid even, which was very close to shit you don't want to be cut open and bleeding. Did you? I couldn't even see how they did it. I tried to see. And did somebody just thumb him in the fucking eye?
I'm not sure because I didn't see when it happened. And by the time I noticed that he was bleeding all over the place.
And,
well, yeah, I guess you could say that.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't have been a great juice job if you cut your forehead, but if somebody has fucking hard-weighed your eyelid, it was enough blood to concern me. Like, hey, motherfucker. So these guys can't look at you sideways, apparently. I don't know. But they busted him open, and Cross is screaming, where are the Wyatts? Where are the Wyatts? And then the blackout and the piano music. And it wasn't Piano Man. It was just plink, plink, plink. And the Wyatts all come to the ring and have a face-off with Cross and his minions. And the Miz suddenly takes a chair and hits, what's the big Wyatt? Harper?
Yeah, Luke Harper. Luke Harper. No, wait, Harper. Is that his name?
Is that his name? Or is it?
No, I think that was Brody Lee. That was Luke Harper.
Oh God! Well, and
why did you say that? Yeah, what made you?
Well, but because they were partners in the right.
Wyatt Six. Who is that guy's name?
Rowan.
Eric Rowan.
The guy with the red beard.
Red beard.
And they were partners, right? Him and Brody Lee. So I'm not completely out of my mind.
No, just tiny a little bit.
Just a little, just one toke over the line, Brewer and Shipley. So anyway, Miz takes a chair and just clocks him across the back and knocks him goofy. And Uncle Howdy laughs about that and they all start fighting. And while all the rest of them are paired off 4-on-4 or whatever it was, Miz is taking a fucking chair to the big guy and just wearing him out. And I'm, what in the world is happening? And the fans barely cared. They're just sitting there going, what the fuck is happening? And the Wyatts are laid out. And then Cross hugs Miz. And the heels are walking out of the building. And as all the Wyatts are laying there, had their ass handed to them, Uncle Howdy's still laughing about it. If I was the rest of these people, I'd have a serious talk with my Uncle Howdy. If my own Uncle Howdy, who was Aunt Lola's first husband, is always laughing when I get the shit kicked out of me, what kind of fucking uncle is he? At least they put them all together. Is this the Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant versus Paul Jones's Army of 2024?
Yeah, of the WWE roster right now, that's exactly what this is. Yeah.
And otherwise,
but we're at that point where the mighty Wilbur has joined the picture. You know what I mean? Like it's past its due date. This whole thing.
But that's where we're at now. Is that? But Paul Ellering is off selling the Attack. That
his furniture, his house.
He's selling his house. He's having a getting out of the business sale. But he's selling the one move that he was given like a month and a half ago. Or whatever. I don't know. Otherwise than that, Seth Franklin reiterated that he is never going to fucking team up with Roman Reigns, but he's also blown Solo off because Solo made the pitch, join our team and you can get a hold of Roman. And Seth, well, next time I'm in the ring with Roman, I'm going to stomp him, but I will never team with you, a wannabe Roman Reigns. And he walked, so you just know Solo's going to have to do something about that. And then otherwise than that, it was also did the women's tag team title match that they promoted through the whole show, Jade and Bianca versus Liv and Rochelle. The bell rang with 10 minutes left on the air, and they went to a commercial break in that time. So they didn't have time to get from Milan to Minsk. And, oh my God, here came Tiffy and the refrigerator, and Tiffy drew the referee, and the refrigerator gave a shitty Samoan drop on the apron. That was one of those things was more devastating in concept. And then Rochelle did the elbow drop, and Bianca saved, and Naomi tackled Tiffy, and Liv stopped Naomi, and Jade stopped Liv. And Bianca hit her finish on Liv 1, 2, 3. And then the refrigerator beat up all three of the baby faces. But thankfully, Io Sky was in the back dressed, and for whatever reason, because the show was over, so I don't know why hadn't got the hint she wasn't needed, but she was there, luckily, and came down and made a horrible comeback, and all four of the baby faces beat up the refrigerator. And that was sort of an encapsulation of what the last 10 minutes of the program was like.
I like the fact that she went from Raquel Gonzalez to Raquel Rodriguez to you just calling her Rachel to now she's Rochelle.
Well, it's easier for me to remember. Because they kept changing it so often, I couldn't remember what it was. So now this way you can't make any mistakes.
Well, I guess you can't make any mistakes when nothing happens. That was Raw.
They're making a fortune.